Hello. Alrighty, let's make sure here that we've got the stream up and ready to go. Alright, looks good. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Evil Geniuses Bleed Blue podcast. This is a podcast where I talk about most things Evil Geniuses. And it's been a pretty action-packed week, to say the least. Obviously, we've got the League of Legends team is playing in the LCS. We had the Valorant team playing in Valorant Masters Tokyo and making it to the grand finals, so we're obviously going to be talking about that. And the Counter-Strike team went through Rostermania and had some crazy ups and downs, and lots of things were in flux, but things have finally settled down right before basically we get into the Blast Fall group stage. Um, so yeah, lots to talk about with um, especially for Valorant and Counter Strike. Um, but obviously, look, EG Esports is looking pretty good right now. Like which is shocking. It's not something that I've said for a while. But the League of Legends team looks good. The Valorant team is obviously amazing, and might actually be the best team that we have, which is kind of crazy considering the Dota 2 roster has been extremely good. Um, but and then the Counter Strike team is still the worst, unfortunately. But there's some positives to take with the path that they're choosing to go in. Um, but I will obviously to be discussing and breaking down all of those things as we go. So hopefully you guys are enjoying your weekend. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the games as much as I did. Although I don't know that I really enjoyed them. I was mostly stressed out of my mind while I was watching them. But they were good. Obviously, no better place for your teams to be than competing and doing well. So can't really complain. And without further ado, I think we should get into our first topic, which is going to be League of Legends. Yeah, the League of Legends team, the LCS team, has been quite good. And look, coming into this week, I was not expecting a great week. I'm not gonna lie. They had a pretty difficult schedule. Going up against 100 Thieves on Wednesday. This is another super week. Um, but they played 100 Thieves on Wednesday. They played FlyQuest on Thursday, and they played Team Liquid on Friday. And I kind of expected them to lose at least two of these games. I think you could have picked and chosen which games you would have expected them to lose. I expected them to definitely lose the Team Liquid game, but I thought that the FlyQuest game, I was very iffy on that game, and I thought 100 Thieves, who knows, maybe they pull something out and do really well. Who knows? They were bringing in their new their mid laner finally came in, Quid. Um, so it was, yeah, just wasn't really sure how this week was going to pan out. Was expecting to go 1-2 at best, or maybe not at best, but I was expecting to go 1-2. I thought at best we would go 2-1, but EG decided to one up me and go 3-0 and didn't drop a single game for the entirety of last week, which is pretty incredible. 100 Thieves is 2-4 currently after they lost to EG, but yeah, so that was kind of the game I was expecting them to win, but I was kind of expecting them to lose to FlyQuest and Team Liquid. That was kind of my expectation. They played 100 Thieves first, and they honestly decimated them. It really wasn't that close. The gold lead got out of hand so fast, and there was just no way. Um, there was just no way for 100 Thieves to even deal with it. They pretty much had no chance to win the game. It was pretty decisive, pretty easy. Not too much of a struggle there, which is good. Moving on to Thursday, they played FlyQuest. This was one of those games I expected them to lose because, or if I had to predict, I thought there was a chance they were going to lose because yeah, FlyQuest was 0-5, I think, at the time, or maybe they were. I know they lost to Dignitas on Friday, so they were 0-4, I think, at that point. But you get to a point with a team with players as talented as are on FlyQuest right now, and you just kind of expect them to pick up a game at some point. You know what I mean? You just expect, even if they don't play very well for some reason, they just have such individual talent that they will figure out one game and they can win. And I was like, I don't think a lot of people expected after week one, or even, yeah, after week one, that this 0-3 trend was going to continue and that they were going to continue to lose games in the second week. I think most people thought FlyQuest is going to win games in the second week, and but it didn't happen. EG won, and it was a good game. EG kind of had control for the most part, but um, yeah, it just really shocked me. I really expected FlyQuest to do better, honestly, than they did. They look very lackluster at the moment. I didn't even realize they had lost to Dignitas. That's that's very bad. Um, FlyQuest may not be. I mean, look, they'll make playoffs probably. It's really difficult to not make playoffs in the LCS. Um, and frankly, with a team as good as FlyQuest, or at least how good their players are, I know they're not playing well as a team, but with the players they have, you kind of figure even if they just scrape by to make the playoffs, they could make a lower bracket run. So look, I'm not gonna feel safe to just rule out a team, um, especially one that has as much talent as FlyQuest. But it is certainly looking like EG's chances um, the of making worlds have kind of gone up a little bit, with some teams fumbling around and not doing as well as you would expect. So, yeah, um, honestly, yeah, they beat FlyQuest, great result, and they beat Team Liquid, which is kind of shocking to some extent. I mean, Team Liquid was having a rough week this week. They lost to Dignitas, ironically enough, the day before. Um, so, you know, although Dignitas does have a decent lineup, they do. They have very experienced players, and so Dignitas can definitely do some damage and can, if you're not on your, if you're not having your, if you're not playing up to your level, Dignitas is the kind of team that'll you know stick one in you. Um, and it looks like that's exactly what happened to Team Liquid against Dignitas, and it kind of that momentum kind of carried itself into Friday. Team Liquid, not only did Team Liquid not play probably as well as they were in the first week, but EG also has looked better this week. Jojo Pyun has looked very, very good, very consistent. He's looked super confident. Yeah, it's crazy how much he's developed, in the time that he's been a pro. He really is so fucking talented. And he talked about how this year, the split was kind of going to be his revenge arc, so to speak, in the sense of, he's been putting in the time. The spring split was a wake up call. He's going to take the time during the summer split to really, he took in the time in the off season, and he's ready to roll, and he's ready to do some damage, and he's put in the effort, and he's put in the work, and he went to Korea, and I think it's showing. I think the confidence is showing. He is performing extremely well right now. And yeah, he's one of, if not the best player on the team, and it's just really fun to watch. Um, so happy for him, and obviously he posts the shit posting comments and tweets after every game, which I love. He really does bring his personality. And it's funny when you watch the EG file videos and you see Jojo Pyun, like, you know, talking to like Unforgiven, like, dude, look at this tweet. Do you think this is a good tweet? Is that a good tweet? Does that work? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can just tell, like, he's just having a lot of fun with it. And so it's really good to see. Incredible 3-0 week from EG, and they are now, I think, if not the best team in the LCS standings wise, they're second. So they're tied for first with Cloud9. Um, did Cloud9 lose this week? Let's see. Yeah, they lost to NR. Wow, they lost to NRG. Wow. Yeah, so they lost to NRG on Friday. That's crazy. So yeah. EG and Cloud9 are tied for first place in the LCS. They might play each other next week. They do on Friday. It's going to be a big game for obvious reasons. But EG next week, by the way, guys, it's another super week. I'm starting to think that maybe I should have looked this up, but maybe every week is a super week now. I don't know. Or maybe because they had to make up the time because of the walkout, a lot of these weeks are going to be super weeks, and then, you know, uh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they got to make up the time because of the walkout. But regardless, EG on Wednesday is going to be playing TSM, who currently is not doing too very well. They're 3-3. I guess they're about even, which is not terrible, not great, but not terrible. So hopefully that should be a win. Then they play Immortals. Immortals is 2-4 at the moment. They're not looking very good. And then Friday we play Cloud9. So ultimately, hopefully, worst case scenario, I mean, in theory, it could be an 0-3 week. I highly doubt it. I highly doubt this is an 0-3 week. I would imagine EG should be taking 2 of these games, and the Cloud9 game is kind of up in the air. But we'll see. It's not always that simple when it comes to the LCS because they're best of ones. So if you're having a good day, things are going really well for you, you can just win a game. It does happen. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully EG remains to be, they've proven to me at least that they've been a relatively consistent team so far. Obviously, it's only been 2 weeks, but their cohesion has looked good. And while they do make mistakes, um, they're clearly learning from them, and they are clearly developing that chemistry. So I'm hopeful that that continues throughout this LCS season. There's going to be good weeks, there's going to be bad weeks. It's just how it is, especially with every week being a super week. It's really hard to prepare for all those teams every week. But I do think that the door has been opened for EG to potentially maybe even put themselves in a really good place to qualify for Worlds, which is pretty crazy. Um, you know, considering considering what people were expecting before this split started. So it's really good to see that. And with teams like FlyQuest dropping off as hard as they have, EG definitely is being put in a better position to at least get a better seed for playoffs, which could potentially help them get to Worlds. So, yeah, so that's going to be interesting. Going to keep tabs on that, obviously, throughout the upcoming weeks. But overall, super impressed with the team. I think they've been playing really well. I've really enjoyed this welcome surprise that this team is actually as good as they are. So yeah, um, fantastic, fantastic. All right, let's move on to Valorant. An EG fan's most favorite topic over these past couple of weeks, because this team has just been such a joy to watch and follow, and the storyline is just incredible. And I actually think people are underselling the storyline. And I know that that sounds kind of crazy because all everyone does the second EG gets mentioned is talk about they shouldn't have even been here. And they're right, but I think that it's even more than that. I think it goes deeper than that, right? I mean, you're talking about Evil Geniuses. This is an organization that when they got the franchise slot, or it's not a franchise, but the partner league slot or whatever, um, everyone said that they didn't deserve it. Everyone said that they didn't like that EG got the spot. They pretty much shit on them. They shit on them. They shit on EG's idea of having a 10-man roster, which I still don't think is a good thing, honestly. Um, but I guess obviously it allowed them to kind of do the switcheroo with Demon One, so maybe there's some merit to it, at least in Valorant. Maybe it doesn't work in other games or in like for example Counter Strike, but maybe it works a little bit better in Valorant. We have yet to really see if that is the case entirely. I think it's foolish to say that this project and this 10-man roster is a success because the main roster is playing well, right? You obviously would need some contributions or something to prove that these players in this secondary team are not only providing value, um, in some way, but are also those players are developing as well, and that it's not a waste of time for them to be there compared to being on other teams, trying to qualify for that, you know, move up spot um, into the relegated spots that you can have if you're in the tier two scene, right? Um, Look, I think so far it's been successful, and I think that obviously having the ability to switch Demon 1 and BCJ and the swap they did and changing the rules and whatnot, I think that definitely played a role. And who knows, maybe there's a lot of this stuff that we just don't know. We don't really know anything about what the secondary team is doing. I mean, I've heard Screwface say that they play scrims, um, and so that is obviously a good thing. And I'm sure they're sharing information, they're sharing their ideas on builds, right? You have more players, so more ideas can be created. I think that's a good thing, especially, EG has been one of the most creative teams in the world. So, I think that's obviously of some merit, and maybe that plays a role, but it's hard to really gauge how much of this system has an effect on EG's success necessarily. But before we get into the specifics of the team in terms of the games that they played, let's delve a little bit more into just how proud I am of this team. It's Oh man, it is just it's incredible. And like I was saying before, this run is a lot more you know uh, than just they didn't deserve to be here. EG wasn't supported as a partner team when they got that slot. Everyone discredited them. Everyone said they didn't deserve it, that they weren't good enough to earn it. Um, you know, and They didn't like them for that. EG is a team that when they first joined Valorant was nowhere near the tier one scene. And they really had to work upon iteration and iteration of every single team and every single lineup they had. And Potter has been there the entire way. Um, and so that might be the most amazing part of it all is just how Potter has literally been involved with this team since it joined Valorant, and they were like a tier bottom tier two team. Um, it's just crazy how this has all happened. Um, and I talked about in the last episode, I went through and broke down the history of EG and Valorant, and I talked about all the players and when they joined and my thoughts on the different lineups and whatnot. So I'm not going to get into that here, but I'm just bringing all this information up because it's even more incredible of a storyline than people are making it out to be. People are making it out to be just the simple fact that the Hundred Thieves night, the Hundred Thieves, um, the last player alive got knifed by a coach on MIBR to send EG to the playoffs, and then they went through the playoffs and they made it. They beat NRG in an epic series, and they beat Cloud9 in dominant fashion. They went to Tokyo. They dominated in Tokyo, right? Only losing to Fnatic. But it's even more incredible than that because people discounted them at every turn they could. Nobody has really been supporting this organization to the point where the organization frequently makes jokes about the fact that we have 10 like fucking 3 fans and that their social media posts get absolutely no likes. um, I think this is a big thing for EG is to play well, right? Because when you don't have a big fan base, what you have to do is either be like Sentinels and be a clout org, or you have to be a really strong team. It's the only two ways to really get fans, or have sick fucking merch. And EG doesn't have sick merch. They don't. They have pretty shit merch, honestly. Um, but I do think one thing that I will give credit to is that the socials team, the marketing team has done much better, especially with Valorant in particular, with content creation. I thought some of that was going to be transferred over to the Counter Strike scene, but that's been kind of delayed and not really gone through. The League of Legends side has kind of slowed down. Sometimes you get an episode, sometimes you don't. But the Valorant team has been very good about coming up with the vlogs. I'm hoping they did vlogs during Tokyo and that those will get posted. Um, but who knows? But beyond just those types of videos, they've done a lot of pieces of just like the players just having fun, like playing Scribble.io and shit, like just doing fun things. And I enjoy those, and they're very funny videos, and they're very good videos, and so I hope that that content continues. You've got guys like Calm who are constantly streaming, putting their own YouTube videos together. Ethan does the same, but Calm is a little bit more of that content creation side, right? Um, and he streams a lot, and so does Demon One. Demon One was streaming a lot during Tokyo, surprisingly, and I think that is just going to bring more fans to the organization, right? People are going to be fans of this team, fans of Potter, right? So I think more fans are coming to EG, and I think that's a product of how good this team is playing, and some of the great storylines. Calm talking about his family. He just seems like one of the nicest people you can meet. I mean, I've never met him, but he just seems like a really nice human being. And so, uh, which is, I don't want to say a change of pace for most pro players, but sometimes, a lot of times, I mean, think about the players you play with at ranked. Like, they're typically talking trash. They're typically, assholes. Calm just seems like the complete opposite, which is just crazy. And so, yeah, I respect him a lot, and I think he does a lot with content creation, which is awesome. And it's great. All these guys are getting more popular. They're showing off their personalities a lot more. You could tell from the walkout. It's just incredible. And so I am just so proud of this team. Um, and I think things are on the up, and I think things are getting better. And I'm kind of just rambling at this point, but I just think the storyline being what it was, and it's even crazier than it sounds. And I maybe the even crazier part is that I don't think this is a fluke. I don't think EG is a fluke team. I don't think this is like a one-off for EG. I mean, I don't know about doing it in the dominant fashion they did, but I think this team is here to stay. This team is here to be um, a very good Valorant team, a team that's going to be consistently competing for top placements to go to international events. I think that confidence can only grow. These players are extremely young and inexperienced. Just give them more experience and more time, and they can only get better. Demon One, I tweeted this, I retweeted this, and quote tweeted it on my Twitter. Demon One was ranked in terms of player rating. He was ranked seventh at the event. And considering that this is his first international event, that's a pretty amazing feat. Um, and he's been hyped up a lot, and he lived up to it. He did have some off maps, but what player doesn't? The only players that don't seem to be the Fnatic players. So, I think it's been an unbelievable event. It's been an unbelievable run. I am so incredibly proud of these players. I was breaking down after the lower final. I think I cried like 3 times. It was just one of the most fulfilling things I've ever seen. Um, and it was just a really, it made me so happy to know that the hard work these guys have been putting in has paid off, and they proved it. Um, and so, it was just an unbelievable run, and I don't think it's the end. And I couldn't be prouder of the guys for playing as well as they did, man. And there were tough times. There were some tough times, and they just kept battling. They just always kept battling. They didn't stop. They didn't quit. And they always were trying their best. And so I think that that's extremely commendable. And I think this team's here to stay. So without further ado, let's let's get into these games. So I'm gonna have to go over. Let me think. Which games happened last week? So I guess I gotta talk about the two Fnatic games and the Paper Rex game. Let's start off with the first Fnatic game, and we will go from there. So I probably shouldn't have eaten a big lunch before doing this podcast. I'm in a food coma, and I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, obviously, because of the EG game. So this is rough. This is tough for me. But we will carry on. Uh, First time EG played Fnatic, it was in the upper final. It was the clash of the titans, so to speak. Both teams coming into it undefeated, looking dominant in their runs up into the upper bracket final, and this series delivered. This might have been the best. I think, regardless of what happens, I think EG's series, that all these three series they played are some of the best in Valorant history. They were really that good. Um, yeah. Look, first map, Lotus, not a map EG is good with, not a map they're very comfortable with. Fnatic, very, very strong on Lotus, and it showed. This was EG's worst loss of the event, 13-3 on Lotus. Uh, just one of those maps where, frankly, um, they couldn't really. By the time they figured out how to counter, or what ideas to present to potentially counter Fnatic's attack, it was too little, too late. Fnatic went off to an 8-0 start in the map, and yeah, when a team does that, it's going to be very difficult for you to mount a comeback, especially when you lose both pistols as well. So yeah, it was going to be really tough, and it was really tough, and they did not get anywhere close to winning that map. Um, you know, and yeah, Fnatic was just playing really good. They were manipulating EG around the map. It looked like they always were. They were playing safe at the start of the rounds to figure out where the aggression was coming from, and they would immediately pivot and kind of manipulate EG's rotations. Knowing, making plays. If they didn't know what was happening at a certain period of time, they would just try to wait and try to find information, whether it was, hey, I think somebody sky flashed here, or hey, somebody tried to do this, somebody tried to do that. And they would play off of that information and use it to pick the right bomb sites to go to on the attack side, and win the game. So, especially an attack sided map like Lotus, um, when you only pick up 2 rounds on your defense side, it's just gonna be unless you get the pistol, you get like the first 3 or 4 rounds. It's basically impossible for you to win because you haven't given yourself enough room to win, to give yourself a chance. And EG looked kind of timid, honestly. This was the first time I've seen EG look. This is the only time I saw EG this entire event look timid, was on this map. They looked pretty anxious and just not like themselves, frankly. And I think it showed in the server. But you move on, you go to Fracture, your best map, and it did disappoint. I actually think EG started pretty rough. I think they were still actually, I think they brought over some of that nervous energy from the first map. I think they brought it over a little bit into that second map, at least for the start of the game. Um, at one point, Fnatic was up 3-2, and yeah, and then EG just won out the rest of the half. And once EG started stringing rounds together, you could tell that they were really kind of finding their foothold, and they were starting to play the way they wanted to, and they were starting to get excited, and making a lot of noise and being loud, and getting excited, and making really, really good plays. And just Fracture is just EG's perfect map. And sure enough, they did win it on here. I will note that Fnatic did make a comeback in the second half, um, which I think was mostly down to some very tight, very close situations where I think EG just, one kill doesn't go their way, one situation gets slightly misplayed, and suddenly you're losing that round, and suddenly Fnatic is starting to make a comeback. So Boostio had a monster map on this. His opping on the defense side was incredible, just locking down and holding areas. Um, Truly impressive to watch. Jogamo, for me, had the most impact on this map. It just felt like anytime you needed Jogamo to do something, he always delivered and then some. Very big impact kills. Utility usage was on point. Yeah, overall, I just thought it was an incredible game from Jogamo and Boostio, and yeah, the synergy was working really, really well on Fracture, a map that EG hasn't lost. I didn't think that they didn't lose it the entire time in Tokyo. So, um, yeah, pretty fucking incredible. Going over to Split, this was the most heartbreaking game the entire event. This is more heartbreaking than the bind game in the final. This is more heartbreaking than the other split game in the final. This was the most heartbreaking game I have watched. And it's because EG, honest to God, I really think should have won this game, and they should have won it um, by a couple of rounds. I think EG's attack half was looking so good. They were up 5-2, and it was looking really, really good for them. And they just, man, they let a couple of situations slip, man. It's just, it is that story, man. They just let a couple of situations slip. I think there was one round Demon One was in heaven. He missed a sheriff shot on a guy who wasn't looking at him. Next thing you look, and he gets turned on. Next thing they win that round because of that. They had that player ends up having some impact later into the round. It cost them the round. You had a round where EG had a three-player setup. They had two players in B main, one player on the opposite side of the bomb site in the cubby, and they had the bomb down where the players inside of B main ideally should have been able to see the bomb, although turns out whoever planted the bomb, they didn't plan it as close to the edge as they needed to. And the end result was, look, these there were two players, or I think it was like Leo and Boaster or something, were going into the crossfire, and for some reason or another, they just get picked out. That coordination isn't good enough, and somehow Fnatic wins that round. That's a round they should never win. And so there were just a couple of times where you were like, damn, EG really should have won that round. And I honestly think EG's attack side, they only won 6 rounds. It was a 6-6 half. I think EG should have won at least 8 rounds. I think it was that good of an attack half, but they just let a couple of situations slip. And I was even thinking in my head going into halftime, I think us fucking up that attack side a little bit is going to cost us in the second half in some way or another. And EG lose the pistol, lose the next two, come back, trading blows with Fnatic, actually winning more rounds than they were losing. But because of that first 3 round start at the second half, it kind of gave Fnatic a buffer. Next thing you know, EG's in a position. Some crazy clutches happen. Crazy things are happening on the map. Individuals making incredible plays. Demon One and Calm in particular making some unbelievable plays. To keep the map alive, to give them a chance, and so unbelievable retakes as well with minimal utility that were happening as well. But in the end, it came down to a 12-11 score line. You know, and it started off really well. EG was up 5 in a 5v3. They got 2 opening picks, but it just kind of fell apart. And then Jogamo, last second heroics, trying to save the round. You know, buying time, minimal time left on the clock, uses an ultimate, uses an HE grenade, and they go for the double swing, and Leo just hits some fucking unbelievable shots, and they win the game, and with 1.6 seconds on the clock, and it was unbelievable. It was one of the most heartbreaking games. I went from standing up in the living room at like 2 in the morning to just turning around, head in my hands, just like I can't believe that just happened. It was one of the most heartbreaking things I've experienced, because they really were that close. And at this point, with hindsight, obviously it's easy to say this with hindsight. It's easy to say this, but because we'll never actually know. But I do think if EG had won this series, EG might have had a very good chance of potentially winning Tokyo. I know that's a big thing to say, and technically you don't know that, but I just think with the advantage of having the veto advantage in the final, they would have been able to ban Lotus. Um, I just think it would have given them more options and play more maps that they're good at. And so I think could have been the difference. It could have been the difference. Um, Unfortunately, not the case. And yeah, tough one. Standouts for that map, I think, have to be Demon One and Calm. Calm had a poor map statistically, but I think his impact was incredible. Demon One as well, having a very good map. Ethan, this whole event was fantastic. I mean, util usage was amazing. He was actually the highest rated player for EG for the event, I believe. So, or at least in the final, I think he was. So, just yeah, crazy, but when you're playing a team like Fnatic, the super team that they are, you just can't make those mistakes, and unfortunately, they kind of cost us in the end. So now moving on into the Paper Rex series, which we originally thought, I think most people thought it was going to be NRG, but Paper Rex were the dark horse of the tournament, as always, and they delivered once again as the dark horse team. They really gave EG a fight here in this best of 5. The 5 maps were Fracture, Lotus, Split, Pearl, and Ascent, and we played all 5 maps. I did not go to sleep until 4 in the morning, which was pretty crazy. I can't lie. I definitely was feeling it the next day, but it was worth it for an amazing series. Demon 1 had a standout performance this series, was plus 29, had 99 kills, 70 deaths. For reference, the next closest player is technically Boostio, who went 83 and 83 in terms of kills. So yeah, pretty insane. Really good performance from Demon 1 in this best of 5. And yeah, first map was Fracture. As you would expect from EG, they dominated 13 to 7. EG did not go into double digits on Fracture the entire event. They are the best Fracture team in the world. They've proven it time and time again. And it's no surprise here that they beat Paper Rex on Fracture. Very dominant first half. A shaky start to the second half, but were able to close out in the end. Um, and yeah, strong performance from them overall. Lotus was the second map, a map that EG has had to play quite a bit this event, a map that they knew they were going to have to play no matter what, and I can't lie, it was this map was it's very confusing to explain. They changed the comp. They went for a Viper, so they went for the double smokes, which I think is a good thing. They were going with the breach before, but it really wasn't having as much impact as they would have liked, unfortunately for them. And yeah, so unfortunately, it didn't work out. You know, Calm going on the Viper. I think that was a better look overall. Allows you to stall a little bit better, allows you to deny some info a little bit better. The ultimate is just really strong on that map as well. So glad to see the Viper got played there. But overall, the first half was very shaky. EG were down. Let's see, what is that? 6. Oh wait, they were down 7-2. Yep, that's right. They were down 7-2, and I remembered thinking, EG needs these next 3 rounds. They can't afford to not win these next 3 rounds. If they want a chance, it would be really really nice if they could win these rounds. And sure enough, they did. They actually won all 3 rounds in diffuse situations, but they won them nonetheless. That's all you needed to do, and they gave themselves a fighting chance going into the second half. Going into the second half, they lose the pistol, they lose the second round, and then they win 3, and then they lose 2, and then they win another 2, and then they lose 1, and then they win 2 to send to overtime, and then they lost the last 2 rounds. But basically, the best way I would describe it is their attack side was actually really, really good. It was fantastic. Unfortunately, overtime just kind of slipped away. Some incredible play by Jing, who won them the first overtime round, and yeah, just couldn't hang on in the end of the day. But I think this map was really interesting to watch. I didn't really stress watching this game that much until it was actually close and EG had a chance to win, because in my mind I was just thinking Lotus is a map that Paper Rex should win. So if EG makes it close or they do win, if EG wins, it's a bonus for me. Overall, I thought EG put in a good effort, made a great comeback, and just couldn't close, unfortunately. But a map they definitely could have won, and they showed a lot of improvement. And I liked the comp change, and it looked promising. It looked very promising. And I think Lotus is a map. I'll say this now. I think Lotus is a map that in the future, come champions, I think Lotus is actually going to be a map where you're not really gonna. People are going to pick Lotus probably to play EG on. I think EG is actually going to be good at Lotus. That's my hot take. I think EG is going to be a good Lotus team by the time of champions comes around. So Although who knows? Because I think the new agent might be in the game at that point, or I think because the new agent's coming in on Tuesday. I don't know when it gets added to Pro Play, if it's the same, same time or whatever. Like if that agent's going to be used in LCQ, who knows? But yeah. So who knows? Who knows? Everything could change. Everything could be in flux because of the new agent. People are going to want to test it. People are going to find wacky ideas. It's just going to be different. But I think EG is going to be a good Lotus team by then. They'll have the time to prep. They'll look at the demos. They'll see what they did wrong, see what they can fix, see what they can do better. They'll have more time to work with this comp, and I think it will show with time because they didn't have much time and they already looked much better on the map in just a couple of days. Um, Going on to Split, this was the most disappointing game that EG played in this series. This was a game that they definitely should have won, and they just choked it. And there's no real good reason for it beyond just getting caught off by PaperX's unique style of aggression. Um, but this was a map that EG really let slip away. And frankly, it was after this map that I actually got worried EG was not going to win this series, because PaperX, in my opinion, didn't really deserve to win this map after the first half, and EG kind of let them do it. EG was up 7-1 before ending the half, with an 8-4, which is a good half, but could have been better. They actually, those last like three to four rounds that PaperX won, the last 3 rounds PaperX won. Some of those rounds were close. EG should have won one of those at least. Uh, yeah, it could have been a better first half than it was, but it was still a good first half, and it was still a good first half to the point where even with losing the pistol, you kind of still thought, I've seen EG play against Fnatic on their attack side on Split, and looked really good. I think EG's going to win this. Not the case. Not the case. Paper X, unorthodox aggression. It was just too much for EG to handle. And that was a scary game to lose overall. Very scary game to lose. And yeah, so then they move on to Pearl. This was actually the most dominant win, I think. Yeah, this was the most dominant win of the series for EG, 13-6. Playing the Viper Harbor, as they have been, and I think people kind of slept on EG's Pearl. I don't think people actually remember that EG. Yes, they did get 13-0'd by Loud on this map, but it's like they've had some tough losses, but they've had, I think, some very impressive wins on this map and some very close games on this map. So against good Pearl teams. So yeah, look, I think it was good. I think it was very good, obviously. And Boostio had a life game. The dude was just reading them like a book. It was incredible to watch. And yeah, it's just one of those games where things just seemed to be clicking. Things were moving in the right direction. The first half was relatively strong, a 7-5, and moving into the attack side, and they just kind of closed it out from there. So really, really strong win, and it put them in a position to win the series on Ascent, a map that I was feeling very confident in because EG is, in my opinion, one of the best Ascent teams in the world. It is probably their second best map, in my opinion. Um, I just think this team is unbelievable at this map, and it kind of showed. Now, listen, at first it was a little bit nerve wracking, right? They go down 0-3, and I'm starting to think, okay, you got to start winning some rounds, right? Let's not put ourselves into a hole very early into the game, and well, that's exactly what EG decided to work against. Obviously, they won. Let's see, what is this? 8 rounds in a row. Yeah, they won 8 rounds in a row. Looked really strong on the attack side. Wasn't really any answer from PRX that was able to stop EG's attack. It was just manipulating. They just felt like they were in control the entire game. At no point did PaperX ever feel like they really were going to pose much of a threat, and it kind of continued that way throughout the second half as well. You know, uh, EG just looked in control. They just looked in control. Demon One had an amazing map, 28-13, unbelievable. And EG ended up winning the series, 3-2 against Paper X in a very closer than I would have liked series, but I think EG has the argument that they literally could have won every single map that they played against Paper Rex. The games that Paper Rex won were games where they had to pull out some incredible individual plays to win, in order to get it over the line. I think of that split game. What an unbelievable comeback, an improbable comeback they had to make. I think EG definitely should have won that game. Lotus, same thing. You know, um, a game where I think EG definitely could have won. They were making the comeback, definitely could have won. Didn't end up happening. Super super close games, right? But the maps that EG won, on the other hand, were maps that frankly weren't even that close. Fracture 13-7, Pearl 13-6, Ascent 13-8. Very clinical games, very well controlled, managed games. So yeah, I think that proves, and just from looking at it, you look at a 3-2, you think, man, it must be a really back and forth, super close series. But no, I think EG kind of had control over this entire series. There wasn't really, too much that went, um, even when they weren't playing at their best, it still took Paper still had to throw everything at EG in order to get them to falter, in order to get them to win against EG. It took everything. So you know, yeah, that was the most emotional series for me. I really wanted EG to make it back to the finals to play Fnatic. I just wanted them to make the final. That's all I fucking wanted. Um, I just wanted them to make the finals so bad. So yeah, a lot of emotions were put into this PRX series, so I'm super happy they won it. And yeah, to me, it meant that the finals was kind of like a bonus, the cherry on top. I didn't expect Fnatic to lose to EG. I thought there was a chance. I thought it was slim though, and I thought that you know this is before the series, right? I was thinking it was a slim chance EG was going to win due to the veto advantage, and I just thought, you know, uh, this is the cherry on top. Go enjoy your finals. Go enjoy the moment. Have fun with it, and who knows? Maybe you can steal it from them at the end of the day. And they almost did. Granted, I know what you're thinking. What do you mean they almost did? Fnatic 3-0'd EG. What are you talking about? They did 3-0 EG, but this was a very close 3-0. In fact, I think this is a 3-0 that definitely could have gone the other way, and EG could have 3-0'd Fnatic. I think it definitely could have gone that way. The three maps that EG and Fnatic ended up actually playing were Lotus, Split, and Bind. One map EG literally does not play; it's their permaban. One map EG is bad. Number one, it's not. It's one of their worst maps that they actually play, while also being one of Fnatic's best maps. It's also a map that Fnatic had already dominated EG on previously, which was Lotus, right? Bind is the map that EG never plays. They played it like maybe once or twice at the end of the season against NRG. That was pretty much it. You didn't really see it after that too much. I think they might have played it against Loud. I don't remember. But that's Bind. That's EG's permaban. They had to play that map, and they played Split, which I think is around the middle of their map. Well, it might be their third or fourth best map. But I think Ascent is their best. I think out of the five maps that were going to be played, I think Ascent was probably their best map, and that was the fourth map to be played. So, yeah. Overall, not not the best thing in the world. But yeah, Lotus 13-8 goes to Fnatic, but this was a very, very close series, or close map, I think. Fnatic ran away with it in the second half, but I think in the first half, EG gave themselves a very good chance to win. And yeah, they just could not figure out Fnatic's defense. They were doing a really good job of not only just like it wasn't as much as that they were manipulating EG. I guess they were in some ways. They were putting them in positions where they had to deal with crossfires that were just very creative crossfires. Like if they went towards C, Fnatic would always somehow always at the right time, right place, good utility usage. They would always have that door open and just at the perfect time and just kill EG players who were stuck between a crossfire from the C bomb site and the swiveling door. It just felt like there was always situations where EG just could not figure out how to get rounds. And I will say they actually kind of looked like they had figured it out, and they were starting to make a slight comeback at the end of the second half. Um, But unfortunately, they had a Viper's Pit on the site, and some things didn't go their way, and unfortunately, they barely lose that final round. But I think if they had won that round, suddenly you're looking at a 12-9 score line, with Fnatic potentially not having the best buy in the world, and you're looking at a different map. So who knows? I thought it was a very close map, and considering that EG got destroyed on it last time, and that they haven't had much time to use this new composition, and that Fnatic have had time off. They've been able to research, look at the demos they've played, figure out what they did wrong, improve, develop even further. I think EG had a very strong performance on this map. Um, I'll say it was strong. It wasn't very strong. It was strong, much better than before, and they've showed a lot of improvement on the map, which is what I liked to see. I thought there was good improvement here. I didn't expect them to win on Lotus, so I was just glad that it looked competitive. Going over into Split, another heartbreaking 13-11 loss for EG, where this time EG only was able to find 4 rounds on the attack side, and found a majority of the rounds at the start of the defense side of the map before Fnatic kind of won 2 rounds in a row and kind of had control of the series, had control of the map for the rest of the half. Um, you know, yeah, kind of crazy. Alfear is just the best fucking Cypher in the world. The dude is so good at playing Cypher on this map. I wish I had demos to watch, frankly, because it's just unbelievable how good he is on that agent, um, and how much of a rock he is for this team. Chronicle had a very good game as well. Um, yeah, Fnatic is just Fnatic, man. Jogamo and Demon One played well, but wasn't enough in the end. And Yeah, a really another hard fought 13-11 loss on Split. It's pretty. I think at this point, when EG lost Split, I think people knew the series is probably over, because going into Bind, not a lot of people had a whole lot of hope for EG because this is a map that they literally permaban. So what did EG do? They played it smart. They said, fuck that. If we're playing a map that we always permaban, we ain't playing any of the meta shit. Because we won't win playing the meta shit. Because we permaban this map for a reason. Let's fucking get wild. Let us pick what we're comfortable with, what we feel is going to just make us as free, give us as much freedom as possible to make the plays we want to make, and let's just fucking have fun and go at it. And so what do? Boostio brings out the fucking Reyna, Demon One brings out the Chamber, and Calm is playing Brimstone. I mean, what a ridiculous composition to play in the grand finals. But it fucking almost worked. It almost worked. They really caught Fnatic off guard. They didn't have anything to prep for. This was a good map, and EG should have won it. It didn't end up happening. EG had an incredible first half. They picked up 8 rounds. It was 8-4 in the first half. And then they even also picked up the next 2 rounds. They picked up the pistol, and the follow-up round. So suddenly you're looking at a score line that's 10-4. Um, but unfortunately, which eventually became, I think, 12-7, and then Fnatic just won every single round after that and ended up winning the series, right? Ended up winning the event off of it. Really unfortunate they couldn't have won Bind, man. I think if, I mean, who knows, right? They could have won Split. They could have won Bind. Um, those were both possible, especially Bind, right? Even if they just win Bind, right? You're going into Ascent. That's a map EG is really good at. Who knows? Maybe they win that, and you're looking at a game 5 on Haven. So yeah, I think this series was really close. It's easy on paper to just look at a 3-0 and just think, well, clearly Fnatic's the better team by far, but it wasn't that close, or it wasn't as simple as that. It was much closer, and I think EG really put up a fight in a situation that I don't think a lot of people really expected them to do as much damage as they did. Um, and so it just sucks. What hurts the most about this final is seeing that scoreline be 3-0 when you know it was much closer than a 3-0. Um, so I think that's the part that hurts the most with that finals. But it was really fun to see the players, with their walkouts. It was so fucking dope. They had so much fun with it, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. They smashed them. It was so fun to watch. The games were fun to watch. I couldn't be more thankful for this team. I know this is going to, maybe not this specifically, but I know this team is really, really good. This isn't a fluke. This team is the real deal, and will do damage in upcoming events. They will, and they're going to be a team fighting for international event spots in the future. I feel like they can only get better with more experience, and now they have the hunger. Right, they reached the final and didn't win. They have that hunger inside of them to want to continue and to want to win. So, um, you know. I hope it can continue, and hopefully EG becomes a big name in Valorant that people can look to. And Valorant is the hot game right now. It's not League of Legends. It's not Counter Strike. I mean, Counter Strike is a hot game right now, especially with CS2 on the way. But I think Valorant is the new game. It is the Zoomer game. It is the game that all the young players are playing right now, especially in North America. So if yeah, if EG can become good at Valorant, they're gonna gain more fans. They're gonna gain more popularity, and it's gonna be a good thing overall for EG. So that's what I'm excited about and I'm hopeful for. And yeah, couldn't be more thankful. Moving on, you know, EG gonna be at Champions, of course, along with PaperX, DRX, T1, Loud, NRG, Team Liquid, Fnatic, Foot Esports. And then there's going to be one more team coming from the America's Last Chance qualifier. There are going to be two more teams coming from EMEA's Last Chance qualifier. There's going to be a team coming from the Pacific Last Chance qualifier. There's going to be three, and then there's going to be three teams coming from the Chinese qualifier. So probably going to expect to see EDG and Attack Soul Esports or whatever, Attacking Soul Esports. That team might also make it as well. Maybe you'll get another big name like a one of the big name, some of the big names in there are some big organizations that are, are well-known organizations that are in that Chinese scene. You've got teams like organizations like Tai Lu, RNG, Fun Plus Phoenix. So might be interesting if some of those teams make it. Helps with the brand value, helps with the name value, a little bit, and then one. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're looking at right now. LCQ starts on the 15th of July, so it's coming up in about half a month. It'll be interesting to see which team I should say makes it through for NA. I would suspect Cloud9 most likely will make it. They've got a chip on their shoulder. They're feeling like they didn't get to go to where they very reasonably should have gotten, considering how good they played in the regular season. I would imagine Cloud9 is going to be fired up and ready to go into the LCQ. I would expect them to be the team that makes it out. I think they pretty much clear every other team in terms of quality. I'm using previous knowledge. Obviously, all these teams are going to be working to make it through the LCQ, and they're going to get better and whatnot. But I think Cloud9 just has been unbelievable, and so I expect that to continue. They were by far and away the best team in this LCQ. So let's see if Cloud9 makes it, and we'll have a very strong North American squad heading into Champions, which will be really exciting as it's happening in LA. So it'll be pretty fucking sick. Okay. Oof. My voice is so dead, guys. I am just oof. But we have one more topic to discuss. One more topic to discuss. And it's Counter-Strike. Still don't know. I'm putting it as Counter-Strike and not Counter-Strike Global Offensive, obviously, because the new game's going to come out hopefully hopefully soon, but probably not soon, because let's be honest, I'm not going to get into that, but it's Valve, so I don't trust them. Oh my god, oh I'm tired. But who's also tired? The GM staff and the just the players and staff in general of EG's Counter Strike team, because my god, was Rostermania absolutely fucking insane. Obviously, Current and I, when we discussed this previously, we were talking about the fact that at the time there was a lot of rumors about Zorte, a lot of rumors about Liege and Electronic and Jax potentially joining Evil Geniuses and creating an international roster. Rumors about Vorborg leaving the team, um, and Malik coming in to be the head coach, which I would imagine was Plan A. It did not happen because Who knows? It's impossible to know exactly what caused it. Nobody. It's not like anyone's gonna tell us. I made a joke because uh, Kassad was talking about it, and he was talking about how crazy he's like, why, crazy that like what he was like basically saying like, I wonder why this roster never ended up coming to be. And I kind of made a joke saying, yeah, well, I'm sure their podcast will talk about it because obviously they haven't posted the podcast episode yet, and I don't know that they will because it was with Vorborg, and I just don't know that they're going to post it. I don't even know if they're going to continue doing the podcast, which is a damn shame, and it's stupid, and I hate it. The fact that they're not actually going to do it. Don't promise things that you're not doing. It's fucked. So hopefully they post it, but who the fuck knows? It's EG. What can you really trust when it comes to that? Um, but yeah, so roster move did not happen. They ended up promoting EG Black, which is what a lot of people had been wanting. A lot of NA fans had been wanting them to promote EG Black. And so what they did is they kind of merged it somewhat with adding 4 of the players from EG Black and then keeping Autimatic. So Autimatic is the only player remaining from the original roster. So you've got Autimatic, Junior, George, Walco, and Hext is returning to the main team. I don't know how to say this. I'm excited that these players will have an opportunity to play world-class competition. I think this is the way that a North American team can, with young players, develop the scene and become better, is doing this. It's how these young players are going to get better. It's just playing international teams, right? It's funny because players constantly talk about how, the practice in North America isn't good and you have to live in Europe if you want to be able to compete with the top teams. So all these North American players go and do that. And so but then people complain about the fact that the endemic scene is so poor, right? That North America's scene is so weak. And it's like, well, yeah, because all the good teams are going to Europe and then they're not coming back and practicing these teams. So then these teams are just shit out of luck, you know? And they're only going to pro league fucking like once or twice a year. That's not enough for them to develop, right? So this will help with that, right? This will help having a partner team going to these events with a bunch of young players. It will help develop that. I think that's good. Let me clarify. I think that's good. However, this is what pisses me off. This is why I was mad on Twitter and I was talking about why EG just pisses me off. It's not, if this was the first idea, right? If this was your first idea, cool. I respect it. I think it's going to be tough. Like Maui Snake said in his video, I recommend you guys check that out. It's a great video. This team is going to lose games. This team is going to lose a lot of games. It's just going to happen. Look, they have potential, but unfortunately, you're playing international talent. And this team, even the EG Black roster as it was originally constructed, and when they were playing well, they were not a good enough team to do that much better than EG's main roster in these, ESL Pro leagues and whatnot. Um, they're they were good, but they're not international top. You're not going to see this team make the top 15. That's just not going to happen. At least not right now. Maybe they can develop into that, but right now that's not going to be the case. This team's going to lose games. They just are. That's just how it's going to be. But um, but if this was the first and primary idea, I would be like, okay, you're sticking to your philosophy, what you've been saying that you want to take that you want to develop North America's scene and you want to develop their young players, and so you're allowing them to have the opportunity to do so. I think that would be good, right? It sucks because as an EG fan, right, I've been watching EG teams lose for 3 years, so I would have liked to have seen a team that would be, capable of winning, but I would understand, obviously, we need to develop the North American scene, especially now that CS2 is on the rise. So I get it. I totally get it. However, this wasn't EG's first idea. In fact, this shouldn't have been EG's second idea. This was essentially EG's fallback plan if anything bad happened. If the worst case scenario happened, this is what would happen. This is what this was for EG. I don't believe this was. You know what? No, I do believe this was a plan B from EG, and I think that's the problem. Is that it was a plan B and not a plan C or a D. And I know what you're saying. What the fuck are you talking about? What I mean is, are you gonna tell me that EG's plan A was this roster of this, obviously this is 6 players. They would need to cut one off here. Probably, let's, for the sake of argument, say Electronic, because I just can't believe that Electronic would actually join EG after being on Navi of all teams and playing with Simple, but whatever. Autimatic, neaLaN, Jax, Zorte, Elige. You mean to tell me that was your plan A, and that if any of that shit went wrong, you didn't have a plan B to sign other international talent? This was it? These were the players. This was it. Really. Guys, mind you, that roster that I just listed without Electronic, that's not even like a guarantee to be a top like 15 team in the world. They have the player capability, kind of, but I think most people would put them around maybe at best 13th, somewhere in that range. This was not some international super team with the best talent you could pick up in the offseason. Okay? This was a pretty good team, but has a lot of question marks. That's what this was. This was not the best situation EG could have done. EG could have, obviously, they were working on Electronic. That could have been possible, but there were other players on the market. Alexi B on the market, right? Dexter on the market. IM on the market. Ime on the market. Suhei was on the market. Some of these other guys on Gamer Legion are on the market. You got guys like Acor on the market, right? You've got players on the market. You got Boros, right? Like, you have all of these international players, all of this talent. And this was the one and only plan you had? And the reason I say that is, number one, they had these conversations with these players, man, so close to the deadline. Like, you guys got to remember, EG was out of the major basically a month ago. They've had a month to start questioning teams, to potentially start making just reaching out to players, whatnot. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the specifics of how things work, but it's not like this team. EG always has time, man. They always have time. Like, EG doesn't qualify for anything, man. They lose every event they play, and they don't. They literally do not qualify for anything. The only events they play in are events they're invited to. They don't play and qualify in games in events they qualify to. They don't qualify for anything. So how is it that every fucking time in the off season, or like when a tournament doesn't go well, it's always like, well, we just needed more time. It's like, you guys have more time than everybody else. Like, you don't play fucking officials because you lose every official you play. So how is this it? Like, you're having these conversations with these players so late, right before the deadline. Not only that, once one domino fell, the rest just fell with it. And you had no backup plans. You had no other players you were talking to. There were so many players this offseason that were available. This was it? This was all you guys could come up with? Was this one group of players? And if it went to shit, you had to go with with EG Black. Like, that's 2 plans, guys. That's not like 3 or 4. That's 2 plans. So that's why I'm saying EG Black should have been like a plan C, right? Even come up with one other international roster. And this is what pisses me off. You're going to sit here and you're going to show me, all this, oh, look, EG might be signing Electronic. They could be signing Jax. They could be signing all these other players. So you're going to show me signing a potentially competitive roster. And then you're going to after 3 years of me suffering, watching EG lose over and over and over again. And then at the end of the day, we're going to go to a roster that I know is going to lose games. That's why I'm mad. That's why I'm mad, because it shows an inconsistency, God, what am I? It's a contradiction in the philosophy of where the team should be headed, right? You have one plan that's let's sign international players, let's be mostly international, let's literally, essentially, I would imagine, go be based out of Europe, right? You're going to have 3 international players. Base yourselves out in Europe, right? And go have to play through the EU RMR and the whole fucking thing, right? You're planned for that. And it's either you do that or you're going to a basically tier 2 North American team and you're going to try to develop them within NA. They're completely different ideas. Completely. They're not even remotely close. And so the fact that within a span of 1 week, you went from being committed to this plan to now having to pivot all the way over here and go to this plan shows me you did not create enough contingencies within the two. Also, I find it funny because I listen, Valens does AMAs. So did Vorborg when he was with the team. Valens did an AMA. I asked him a simple question. What is the plan to get EG to long-term success? And he told me, you can't rush these things. You must, I believe he said something along the lines of basically you need to take 2 to 3 players, have a core, and develop around them. You add pieces and whatnot, but especially if you want to develop talent, right? He was saying that one of the mistakes, right, is you want to have 3 veterans with like 2 new players, like just all the stuff. Like you want to have a core, you want to have this core, and you want to keep the same, this core together and try different things. They threw that shit out the like. I just This international roster would have thrown that out the window. So it's not consistent. Like, nothing here is consistent. And frankly, with the way things fell apart for these negotiations, I just can't help but go back to what Naf said in his interview with, what was it, Dust 2? Where he was basically like, yeah, I was literally about to leave Team Liquid. I was going to go to EG. I went through their interview process, and suddenly I was starting to have to talk to like their management and whatnot, and I just saw how incompetent they were, and I immediately wanted to get the fuck out. I can't help but think that that has to be the same thing here. I mean, I just don't know what else it could be, right? What else could it be? It's so strange. It's so strange, and we'll never know the reason why this broke down. Probably, at least not for some time, for a considerable amount of time. Actually, as we speak, Nafly is doing an interview with or he's not currently doing it, but Thorin he posted I believe part 1. Usually he does them in 2 parts, so I'm thinking this is a part 1. I don't have it in front of me right now, so I can't remember if it was a part 1 or not. I didn't finish the video, but he's doing an interview with Nafly. I would be shocked if in the second part of the interview, if they do not talk about the fact that he was about to join EG and why he decided not to join EG. Thorin, obviously, look, EG's a shady org. They're just shady as fuck. Their management is shady as fuck. They mistreat people frequently. Um, they've done it in the past. I'm sure they're still doing it now. Richard Lewis is constantly coming out with all these articles about all the basically the lack of care, empathy, and professionalism that Nicole has shown. And I would be shocked if NAF doesn't talk about it on his interview with Thorin. So that's going to be interesting to listen to. But I just can't help but think that it's the same thing, right? I mean, Elige was almost committed to join EG, right? I mean, he had literally declined complexity, and now he's on complexity. You can't help but think that it's because EG couldn't get the job done. Maybe he saw something with EG that he didn't like, right? It just feels like right after the Zorte thing fell apart, everybody else fell apart. Like, or if maybe Jax was first, I can't remember. Whichever one was first, it fell apart right after that, and nobody wanted to join the team. So look, and I kind of feel for Autimatic. I know he's not the kind of guy to say this in public or really at all, and he probably doesn't even think this way. But I just can't help but think, like, dude, if you're Autimatic, like, you potentially could be playing with people like Electronic and Elige, and now you're playing with, you know, no offense, but like Hext and George and Walco, and I'm not throwing shade at them. I'm just saying Elige and Electronic are world class proven players who have been to who have won Grand Slams, who have won well, not Elige, but Electronic has won a major, right? Like Electronic, one of the best riflers of all time. Elige, probably considered the GOAT of NA. Like you're talking about some steep competition. So you got to be a little bummed out if you're Autimatic. You know, you've been fucking going through the trenches with this organization the past couple of years, and you almost get this team, you know, this incredible international team, you know, or a good international team, and now you're going to be like, all right, well, now we have to develop these young players, and it's going to be tough, and we're probably going to lose a couple games and whatever. So it just sucks. And what pissed me off again is that inconsistency. It's the fact that Plan A and Plan B are so different, and also that there's no, you know, that Plan B should have been Plan C, and Plan B should have been a different international roster, right? And you didn't have to switch three players. Worse, you know, Plan B could have been a hybrid, right? You could have had, maybe it could have still been an NA team. You do Autimatic, Brehze, maybe you even keep neaLaN, right? Um, or actually no, I mean it would still be European in the way that I'm thinking, but like keep three players from the original roster instead of having to sign three players that make any sense. Like instead of basically take Autimatic, take neaLaN, take Brehze, and then only have to sign two international players instead of having to sign three international players, right? Maybe that's Plan B, right? Plan B is Autimatic, Brehze, neaLaN, and then two other players, right? Two international players, and you do that, right? There's plenty of players on the market there, right? Other than Zorte, you have people like Poison who's on the market. Um, you know, Dexter is on the market. There are other players on the market that you could sign. If I don't know how good Wonderful's English is, but if Patsy can go join another team, I bet you Wonderful could too. Just saying. So, yeah, a little bit shocking, honestly, that there's no plan B that's in the middle of the two. That it was just plan A, international roster, we're going to Europe, or plan B, we're going to bring up our academy team to be our main roster from North America. Two completely different positions. And when you promise someone like me a team that can compete for something, for fuck's sake, that can win a series, my God, you know, after 3 years of torture, um, yeah, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna be pissed. Um, so that's my stance on it. I look overall, looking at this. Look, I'm not upset with the fact that this is the way things are going. I mean, I somewhat am in the sense that we could have had a competitive roster that's international, but look, if this is the route you want to go with, that's fine, but you need to be committed to it now. Now you've made the decision, EG. Now you've made the decision. You can't wait 6 months and then go, you know what? This whole, develop the endemic scene isn't really working out for us. We're losing a lot of games and we're not really liking it. And the fans are giving us shit and the community's giving us shit. Now the players are looking are starting to become, emotionally distant, perhaps. Um, but there's like an off season going. This is like the last off season before the next major. So we're gonna go sign like a bunch of international talent and build another international roster. No, can't do that now. You've decided to take a gamble on these players. You've decided to move up these players as your plan B. Plan B is not 6 months. Plan B is time. You're giving these players time. I would imagine till the next major. That's what I'm thinking. Because you gotta. These are young players. These are young, inexperienced players, right? I mean, the most experienced player the most experienced players are Autimatic and Junior. And when Junior is your most experienced younger player, concerning to say the least. Concerning. So, yeah, uh, lots of work to do with this team. I think Axe moving up as the coach is the best decision because the majority of this team, 4 players to be exact, are from EG Black, and so it makes sense to move up Axe instead of bringing in Malik as the main coach. I think that's a good move. And yeah, I think that part makes perfect sense. I think if you want to develop the young players, I think this is the way to do it. If you want to develop the North American scene and show commitment to the North American scene, this is the way to do it. The only concern, and Maui Snake also brought this up in his video, is that it was clearly a backup plan. It was clearly a if we have to type of thing. It was not what EG was originally intending to do. For all the hate that Team Liquid is getting right now for having an international roster, EG was just as willing to do the same. And I support it. I supported both. I did. I supported both. From a my team wants to win right now from I want my team to win right now perspective, I wanted the international roster. I did. I figured you could make the international roster and you could still have an academy team. You're doing both. But at the same time, If they had said, no, fuck it, we are fully committing to a North American roster, I understand that too. I understand that too, and I respect it. And I do think it's a good thing these players are going to get the opportunity to play. I do. I think it's going to be fantastic. Um, I think my concern has always been that EG has never really been too consistent with where they want to be, right? They say they care about North America and develop the scene. They go and sign neaLaN as an IGL, right? Instead of bringing up a Walco or signing a Stamina, right? Like, why would you not do that? You know what I mean? Um, you claim you want to develop the North American scene, develop the North American players, that you're very dedicated to the North American scene, and when you have a rifler spot opened up because Hext isn't playing because he's lost his confidence and needs to go back to the academy team to regain it, you don't move up George, and you instead sign Refrezh, right? Again, moves that I understand why the decisions were made from a role perspective, but when you claim that you want to philosophically, that your philosophy is to support the North American scene and develop the North American scene, and that you're committed to that, when you sign, an international IGL, an international rifler, especially an international rifler, when the one thing the NA does have right now is riflers. We have young riflers who have potential. That's what we have. We don't have in-game leaders. We're struggling with in-game leaders. I think Stamina is a prominent one, for sure. I think you had one on EG White, as well. But Walco has proven to be a good in-game leader. But I think there are, it's not a very deep in-game leader scene in North America right now, especially not in-game leaders with a lot of experience. Um, along that front. And then you're also struggling with oppers, right? You're struggling with oppers. So, you know, um, just kind of crazy to me. Um, just the lack of consistency with what this organization wants from their philosophical standpoint, or their kind of their mission statement doesn't really align with what they're doing. And the things they say, you can never really, even if that's what they intend to do, it isn't what they end up doing. And so that's the problem. It's not about intention. It's about what decisions get made, you know, um, in reality, right? And so you can have the best intentions, but when you go against what you originally claimed you were going to do, doesn't matter how many good reasons you give for why you're not doing it, you still went against something that you said was your mission. So that's the problem with EG, especially this past week. But it's been consistent. It has been there throughout the past year or so, but it especially happened during this week, and that's why I was frustrated with it, was because I just didn't see any consistency. And that was my problem with it. But overall, I'm happy that the players are having their spot. Really quickly, I want to talk about as well, the players that are no longer with EG, because this is a pretty emotional, part of the conversation for me. Um, Current has mentioned this on Twitter. I created a lengthy post as well. Um, this is by far, this blueprint project, whatnot. This main EG team that is no longer the main EG team. These core players that were together for roughly a year. Um, I have never put so much emotion into a team in my entire life. I think the only thing that comes close is probably being a 76ers fan, these past couple of years. But look, every week I mean, I've been as consistent recently, obviously, but especially at the beginning, I was very consistent. I was creating, episodes every week, talking in majority about EG's Counter-Strike team, and I was watching every game, and I was watching every interview. I was looking for every little tweet on Twitter. I was looking for literally anything that I could find on this team, and I put so much time and effort into learning more about these players, more about the construction of the team. How does it work? Looking at AMAs, looking at all this different stuff. Um, Reading every question of the AMAs that Vorborg would put out, or Valens would put out, right? Reading all of those and really trying to get as much knowledge as I can about this team, as possible. I put, a lot of emotion, into this team, the ups and the downs. And, it carried, it put a lot of emotional weight on me, right? Like, my days were made and unmade by how poor, or how, by how great or poor, um, this team played. And you know, I'm happy to say that for the first half of the year, or the second half of last year, I should say, you know, it was pretty good overall. You know, EG was actually looking like on an upward trajectory somewhat. Um, and then at the start of this year, things were obviously amazing with beating Heroic, and I got Current to join me on the podcast. I got to interview Vorborg, which I'm extremely grateful for. And you know, and then things just fell apart. All this bad news came out, and just everything went to shit. And it obviously was hard. It was really hard. Obviously not as hard as you know, I'm sure being a player on this team, but it was still really difficult. You know, I didn't enjoy getting onto the podcast and talking about, you know, why I was mad and frustrated with the team. You know, I'm the kind of person where, especially with myself and how I am at work, you know, if I don't do something well, I put that on myself, and I, you know, maybe too much, and it's why I'm able to take criticism, because I've already told whatever criticism is being told to me, I've already told myself. And so, you know, it's nothing new to me. It's something I've already heard. So it's easier to take. But I also I put, you know, I beat myself up a lot. And the reason I say that is because I imagine these players are the same way, right? I imagine these players are the exact same way when they were putting in the amount of work that they were putting in, and they weren't getting the results out of it, and they were seeing, you know, just all. I mean, it's almost unavoidable to just see all the backlash, all the hate. You know, then you're getting news about how your organization has mistreated people, you know, is mistreating players in other esports divisions, is mistreating has mistreated previous iterations of the Counter Strike team, right? Um, and even to some extent mistreating you currently, right? I can imagine where, you know, when the results aren't coming, when Kassad is having a fucking a prize, a prize to beat you in a qualifier for a major qualifier. You know, I can imagine how these things just beat you down and just get you into a really bad state of mind where you're putting in so much effort and you're just getting nothing. And in fact, it's not even that you're getting nothing, you're getting put down even more. Um, it's brutal. It's fucking hard, and I'm so upset that this team um, wasn't able to live up to what I thought they were able to. Um, because I truly still to this day believe this team actually was much better than what they showed. Um, I do believe they were putting in the work. I believe they knew how good they could be. Um, but that just it just never worked out. It just couldn't. Just for some reason or another, it just never stuck. Um, and that sucks. That sucks. I'll start with neaLaN, in-game leader. Um, I have been hard on neaLaN these past couple of, I'd say maybe a month. And it's nothing to do with neaLaN as a person. Absolutely nothing to do with neaLaN as a person. I think, you know, I just got to a point where when the results aren't coming, and it's been a year, which is a long time for an in-game leader to have on a team, you know, at some point you just have to look to the in-game leader. But there's so many things that are unquestionable about neaLaN. neaLaN is a hard worker, incredibly hard worker, especially for his age. He's just a really good person, hard worker. I didn't meet him in person, but just from what I can tell, just from his, you know, from his interviews and from, you know, the different videos I've seen, you know, and just how he seems to interact when he's on broadcast and whatnot. Like, he just seems like a really nice person. Um, and all of these players are, and a really good guy, a really hard worker, a guy who has confidence and has a style that he knows he wants to play. Um, and that was something that I was very thankful for. If you guys can remember back at the beginning of the EG Bleed Blue podcast, it was something that I said I was very grateful that that we had a play style, because I didn't feel like we even had a play style before, you know, when we had the Stewie 2K roster. So I was just glad to have a play style, and I thought neaLaN showed some serious potential as an in-game leader. I still think he has that potential. I think all of these players, wherever they go, can be very successful, very successful on other teams. I just don't think that for some reason or another this team was ever going to work out. Fate just seemed to just not let them have a win. Um, but I think all these players are talented enough to make it elsewhere, especially neaLaN. His story is unbelievable. The sacrifices he's making to play Counter Strike, you know, um, from being away from family as often as he is, that's just something I can't imagine, right? Um, and so I'm really grateful for neaLaN, and I seriously hope and pray that he's not only able to find another spot on another team, um, but that he's able to have success with that team, that he's able to use this experience at EG, the hardships that he went through here, to become better, and he's able to showcase how good he actually is and can be, um, on another roster. Um, I truly do believe that. So that's my message to neaLaN, is that I really do wish him the best. I'm gonna continue following him and his career. It's crazy because if you had asked me a year and a half ago about neaLaN, I would have said I don't really know him at all. Um, but now it's like I just want the guy to have success. I really do. Um, so so yeah, best of luck to neaLaN, in his in-game leading in the future, and I hope he succeeds. Um, really good dude. Um, Wiz, God man, I this Wiz is probably the player I have the most sympathy for. Um, I feel really, really bad for Wiz, and it's not pity. It's not. It's because I think he genuinely, people have written him off now, and I think it's unfair. And I don't think Wiz was ever put in the position to succeed. I think he was probably put in the worst possible position a new, young North American opper could ever be put into. Um, and it must have been really difficult for him. For fuck's sake, the dude's getting criticism from so-called fans when he is showing up with jet lag to a boot camp, to a game in fucking in CCT at a boot camp, and they're giving him shit. Like I can't. It's so hard to put into words. Like I just, oh man, I feel so bad. I feel so fucking bad, and I really, really hope that he doesn't, that his confidence returns, and that he can come back from this, because he really was getting better. He was getting so much better. I remember the end of last year, he was one of the best oppers in North America, if not the best, frankly. I mean, obviously OC, but in terms of like playing in North America at the time, like he was really, really good. Um, and I just can't help but think like he still has that potential in him. It's just going to come down to, can he find this confidence? Can he return to a go to a different team and start, you know, regaining his confidence and finding success, and maybe he's able to be on one of these other teams and qualify for an event. That'd be really cool to watch. I'm always going to root and support Wiz for his perseverance, and for just how hard he worked. A lot of players could have just given up. A lot of players could have just requested to leave or asked for a mental break, or done anything like that. But Wiz never did that. He decided he was going to stay. He was going to try his best, and he was going to try to succeed, no matter how much shit people gave him, by you know by people who just like to shit on EG, or by even the fans. He didn't quit. He did not quit. He wanted to stay. He kept fighting until the end, and I truly hope that he's able to keep fighting and that he's able to find success elsewhere, because I think he has the talent to do so. Um, so yeah, best of luck to Wiz. Um, sorry. Brehze. I'm actually the one person who um didn't want Brehze to leave this team. I wanted Brehze to stay. I thought Brehze showed glimpses of his prime, of that ridiculous aim that he has, and I just always still believe that when you have a player as good as Brehze from a mechanical standpoint, I think I don't know that he fit neaLaN's system. Brehze, I think it even mentioned himself, or maybe somebody else mentioned this, that Brehze was having to take sacrifices on certain positions. Um, and I just think that he wasn't being utilized properly. in certain situations. That maybe this team just didn't work for him. The style of play, maybe I'm not sure, but I still believe Brehze has it, and I believe that if Brehze joins another team, he will be a strong piece, and he could even go international because he is that good. Although some concern that he may just go to Valorant. It was rumored he was going to do it a couple of years ago. Wouldn't be shocked if he decides to go there now. Um, so who knows if he stays in Counter Strike? I hope he does. If he goes to Valorant, though, I'll understand. And at this point, he's free to make that choice, and he should make whatever decision works best for him. And I think he definitely has the individual talent to make it in whichever game he chooses, in whichever situation he chooses. So, yeah. I also just want to thank Brehze for the years and years and years that he dedicated to um, to EG, but also to that NRG core. Um, an incredible core, and a shame that it broke down the way that it did. Um, I think it'll be very criminal for EG to not make a very heartfelt video for Brehze. If they don't do it, I will be pissed. Brehze is the player, the EG player. If you look at EG's history these last couple of years, he just has to be. Um, People forget how good he was. People disrespect him. Um, I believe Brehze still has a place in the scene. I still believe he has a place in the tier one scene. I believe he can do that. He just needs to be put in the right positions. He needs to be utilized better. I think he's got it. He's got what it takes. Um, and I hope that if he does join another Counter Strike team, he's able to find that. But from EG's perspective, similar to what I mean, for Cirque, they only created a little like montage video. Uh, Frankly, I believe they should have done even more for Cirque than that. And I feel the same way for Brehze, if not more so. Brehze is EG. He just is. Um, and it's really sad to see him gone. Um, you know, it's just it sucks. Um, Refrezh. Man, talk about another player just who had no chance the second he joined. Very similar to Wiz in the sense of just being put in a horrible position in a horrible situation, and now his stock value has gone down, and who knows if he finds another place, which is unfair to him because this barely even qualifies as a stint on a team. You know, he joined the team right when the team was coming back from boot camp, or right, no, I'm sorry, right when the team was flying back from the major qualifier, plays in a couple of matches online, and gets roasted alive for his poor performance, even though he's playing on a ridiculous fucking ping. They finally play at boot camp. He starts actually playing pretty good, honestly. Even was one of the better players on the team, and then next thing you know, things don't work out, things aren't going well, and he's off the roster just like that. Um, Crazy, absolutely crazy. I didn't get to really, obviously know Refrezh or anything too well, but um, I think he's a player that will definitely find a place on another team. Surely he has to. He just is. He's got too much experience at the top level of Counter Strike over the past couple of years to not get a spot. And I hope that he finds success as well. Obviously, seems like a really good guy. A shame I wasn't able to get to know him a little bit better because, frankly, um, he had such a short stint with this team. So that's very unfortunate. But wishing him the best. Um, Vorborg. I talked about this on Twitter. Obviously, Vorborg, probably I have the most emotional tie maybe with Vorborg to some extent, because he gave me a chance. He was kind enough out of the kindness of his own heart. He didn't owe me anything. He doesn't owe anyone anything. But he is such a nice person that he just openly reaches out to fans, wants to get to know them, wants to listen to their concerns, wants to hear what they're talking about, and takes that into consideration. Um, and you can tell. Um, he did an interview with me. It was the first interview I've ever done and might possibly ever do again. I don't know. I mean, I think Vorborg may or may not want to come on. If he does, great. But you know, he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that at all. I had full intentions of just doing the podcast on my own, you know. Um, but when he reached out, I couldn't believe it. It was something I never even believed could happen. Um, you know, interviewing the coach of a Counter Strike team is just not what I ever thought I'd be able to have the opportunity to do when I started the podcast, and I'm very thankful for it. And it allowed me to expand my reach a little bit, and it allowed me to meet Current, which is obviously huge for me. Current's a super awesome dude, super nice guy. I hate that I wasn't able to go to Dallas to meet everybody in person. I think that's going to be one of the biggest regrets, potentially in my life, which sounds ridiculous, but genuinely, um, because I don't know that I'll ever meet to be able to meet these guys all at the same place. Obviously, I could meet Current, but you know I don't know about Vorborg, and I don't know about some of these other players, so it just sucks overall. Uh, but you know, if it wasn't for Vorborg, I would have never met Current, and I think he's a really great guy, and I hope to call him. I mean, I consider him a friend. So, you know, it wouldn't have been possible without him. And Vorborg, just I enjoy talking to him. Um, you know, whether it's DMs or during the interview or even just like talking about stuff on Twitter. Like, you know, we had a discussion about the roster moves and whatnot that were in the rumors and stuff, and we had a discussion about it on Twitter, and I enjoy that because like how many other times are you gonna get a response from a team's coach, you know, talking about what's going on with the team or stuff like that? Like most coaches in most teams just don't do that, right? And they shouldn't have to. They're not obligated to. But I think it just shows that Vorborg cares so much about what players or what fans think of the team, what they think the concerns are. Um, and he cares about them because he wants to be successful and he wants the fans to be happy and he wants the fans to, you know, um, to feel like, you know, they know what's going on with the team to an extent, right? There's obviously only so much that you can know. But I think Vorborg seriously cared so much for the reputation of Evil Geniuses and understood what the brand meant, um, in the past, and just how much of a legacy organization Evil Geniuses actually is, not just because of the new regime under Nicole, but also the previous regime. You know, when we used to have a COD team and all this other shit, right? Um, so I think he understood that, and I think he understood what it meant to be a part of EG, and that's something that I don't think a lot of people have nowadays when they look at EG. And I could tell that he really respected that, and he really wanted to get this team to the top, um, more than anything. And he worked incredibly hard. They all did, and it just sucks it didn't work out. But I'm very thankful to Vorborg. He's an incredible human being. An incredible. I think he's a great coach, and I hope that he finds a spot on another team because I think he can bring a lot of value to any team. I think he can bring any value to any team because of how much he cares. He cares about his players. He cares about his coaching staff, his fellow peers. He cares about the fans. And he cares about getting and being competitive and like getting to the top and working hard to get there. And I think he's open to conversations. I just don't. You can't. I think he's a damn good coach. Um, and so I'm wishing him the best, obviously, and hopefully someday I'll get to meet him in person because I would love to meet him. Um, and Yeah, just as a person, he just seems like a really nice guy. So it does hurt that he's not a part of EG anymore because I really enjoyed while he was a part of EG. Um, you know, and so it sucks that it's come to an end. Um, but yeah, hopefully he's able to find another team and he's able to have some success because he deserves it. Um, okay, who am I missing now? Rush. I know Rush isn't on. I don't think there's another academy team anymore, so Rush I think is gone, which also sucks. He's another player when he was on EG Black that I genuinely thought could play at the international level, could play for a top team and be a support piece in a top team and like be really good. I always thought he was pretty good on complexity, and I thought he would do well on another top team. And he showed the drive to live internationally. I hope that this hasn't stunted that. I hope that he can still have a chance on an international team, that somebody would be considering to pick him up. Um, it's hard to say, but I really want him to succeed. I really want him to potentially go and be on a team that's super successful because I think he's good enough to do it. And I think a lot of people sleep on him. I think a lot of people just think he's like, oh, he's just some support player in tier two and he's washed up and that's why he's playing on EG Black and whatever. But like, I don't think so. I think the dude like can bring a lot of value to a team. He's got a lot of experience. He's a very good support player. He fills in the gaps, good communication, good role model. Um, I just think he would be really, really a great player. He would be a great player, and he could do it on a top team. That's my opinion. Um, I'm sure people don't agree with that, as they don't agree with many of my opinions on how good players actually are. But whatever. Um, I truly think he's good enough. I truly think he's a great human being as well. And I really hope that he's able to find a team, maybe even an international team that can compete, because like I think he's good enough. But that's just speculation on my part. That would be really cool if it happened. And I think he could do it and be successful. Have I forgotten anybody? Have I forgotten anybody? I don't know. I'm like I'm trying, but EG's got so many fucking players. It's tough. I think I think I've gotten it. If I didn't and I fucking missed somebody, let me know and I will on the next episode talk about them because I'll feel really bad if I miss somebody. So I will talk about them. Okay, final thing for CS:GO. Blast. They're in Blast. Autimatic, Junior, Walco, Hext, George, and Axe as the coach. Congratulations to Axe as well. He deserves to get the step up. He has done a great job on EG Black. We have no information on what these matches are going to be, who's playing who first, or even what the group stages are. So, not really too much to talk about here, but it is going to start on July 13th. I suspect EG will be the worst team at the event. Um, literally. I don't think OG's roster looks that impressive, but like I think EG is gonna be worse than Big and OG and Complexity, especially now that Complexity has a Liege. Yeah, it's just looking tough. It's looking really, really tough for EG, but maybe they'll put in the practice and maybe they'll surprise us. That'd be pretty cool. The cool part about this team is I have zero expectations, so literally anything good happens, and I will be very happy. With previous iterations of the roster, I sure didn't expect them to be that good, but like it's they've had time together and whatnot, and you just have higher expectations because there's some more experienced guys in the team and whatever. I don't know, but this team I have zero expectations for, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So pretty cool. Hopefully. Oh god, my voice is dying, and it's about time that I wrap up this fucking podcast. Take a break, download this shit, um, post it to my YouTube channel, hopefully tonight. And yeah, I will probably, what I will do, let me change my topic. What I'll do is I'll probably take a little bit of a break, but I will probably do another stream today, just playing Counter-Strike or Valorant or probably one of those two games because now I actually was able to, my friend recommended me he recommended me some like TP Link product or something, and it actually just fixed all my problems. I've never once been able to. I've never been a fan of saying stuff like, "Oh yeah, I bought this one thing and it's like a miracle product and it just fixes all my problems." But like, it genuinely fixed all my lag problems, like my ping issues and whatnot. So yeah, I'm good to go. I can play games pretty easily and with no connection loss. So yeah, maybe I will boot up the stream again in like maybe 30 minutes to an hour or so, and we can play some games, hang out. You can just stop by and say hi. It all works, all is the same to me. I would appreciate it, of course. And yeah, I think I'm gonna try to wait until the download of the VOD is done. Also give my voice a little bit of a break. Um, but I think once that's ready, and downloaded, and I don't have to worry about downloading something while streaming, I'll reboot up the stream, play some Counter Strike, play some Valorant, and hopefully have some fun, hopefully get some W's. I know in Valorant I'm one game away from I don't know, fucking like Diamond 3. I don't play Valorant very often, so yeah, my rank is looking pretty grim. But uh, yeah, or I'm sorry, not Diamond 3, Plat 3. I said Diamond 3. I'm stupid. Plat 3. Yeah, it's not as good as you thought. Um, again, I don't play Valorant very often. But now that I actually can play FPS games without lagging every 3 seconds, I would love to play FPS games. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, check the comment section below for my socials and my Twitch, um, current socials and his Twitch, and the Live Evil podcast, which does a great job talking more in depth about the League of Legends team and what's going on with it in terms of their play, each game in particular, how they're playing, what's good, what's bad. He does a little bit more analysis on that stuff because I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to League of Legends, at least not that much. So yeah, please check those out. Highly recommend it. Check out Maui Snake's video on why he thinks EG CSGO roster is the right way to go for the future. Without further ado, I think that's going to be the end of it. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate it, and I will catch you guys in the next Bleed Blue episode.